Arthur, thank you very much for that. Let's take you to this developing story globally tonight. Al Jazeera, the news channel, and the Associated Press expressing shock and anger at an Israeli airstrike that's demolished a 13-story building in Gaza where they both had offices. It's still not clear if there were any casualties in that attack on the building that also housed residents. The Israeli military claims its fighter jets hit that block because it contained military items belonging to the Palestinian group Hamas, which has fired over 1,500 rockets into Israel in recent days. The building owner received a warning of the pending attack shortly before it happened. Hundreds of people have been killed since Israeli-Palestinian tensions escalated on Monday, with the majority of deaths being recorded among Palestinians. Well, then, talk more about the international community and how far it's gone in trying to resolve the ongoing crisis. We can speak to Na'eem Jeenah, Executive Director at the Afro-Middle East Center, joining us from Johannesburg tonight, I believe. Na'eem, grateful for your time. I reference the international community because tomorrow, Sunday, we're expecting a meeting of the United Nations Security Council. There have been many before on the Israel-Palestine issue with no resolution. Do you expect the same on Sunday?
Yes, I don't think that we can get anything more out of tomorrow's meeting. Remember that there was a closed meeting 2 days ago with the intention of issuing an informal statement, which is the weakest kind of thing that the Security Council can do. Out of the 15 members of the Security Council, 14 of them voted for an informal statement and one voted against, and therefore there was no statement, and that one was the United States. So as long as the United States continues to protect Israel, there will be no real position from the Security Council, and I don't think that that will change tomorrow.
And yes, the United Nations countries will meet tomorrow again to have another conversation, but as far back as 1974, there was already a two-state solution resolution at the UN. Nothing has come of that. Is the two-state solution even still worth discussing and considering at this point? Is there any chance of it happening?
You mean 1947, of course, the two-state solution proposal from in the United Nations, which, of course, Israel has not adhered to and has now controls the entire territory from the Mediterranean to the Jordan River. And because of that, no, a two-state solution really is not possible anymore. When Israelis talk about a two-state solution, they mean something akin to a Bantustan solution that we had in South Africa, where something called a state of Palestine would actually have less power and less independence than Botswana or Transkei did. So a real two-state solution with a viable sovereign Palestinian state at this point in time is really impossible.
At this point in time, you've got groups such as Hamas saying, look, they will continue to strike Israeli targets because Israel is oppressing Palestinians in this day and age still. You've got the Israelis saying they will continue to hit targets in Gaza and other parts of Palestine because they're essentially trying to root out the likes of Hamas, but that there will be casualties, as we've seen already, with civilians being killed. What is it going to take to stop the deaths specifically of civilians in this war?
Look, civilians getting killed in a war, and I don't mean to be callous, but this is something that does happen. But what Israel is doing in Gaza in particular is, with the story that you mentioned earlier on, the 13-story building with 2 media houses based there and residents, no evidence of anything more than that. And attacking and bringing down that building, these are violations of international humanitarian law, more than just saying that, civilians got killed. So it's a serious problem. What will it take to end it? It will take the United Nations Security Council to impose itself on the situation, to ensure that there is a ceasefire, and thereafter to come to some resolution about the matter. But as long as certain powers within the Security Council do not allow that to happen, that's not going to happen. The other possibility, of course, is that you will have some kind of mediation over the next few days. The United Nations itself is involved in some mediation effort, as are separately Egypt and Qatar. And it's possible that over the next few days you'll find some of those efforts coming to some fruition. But that doesn't end the story, of course, Thembekile. What we're seeing is that, if I might use the term, ill-advised term, the battle that's taking place is taking place on 4 fronts. Gaza is just one of those 4. The other fronts are Jerusalem, and there, Israel has to ensure that the residents of Sheikh Jarrah and other such neighborhoods that are being forcefully removed from their homes, that doesn't continue, that security forces are withdrawn from places of worship, such as the Aqsa Mosque, and don't attack worshippers in these places of worship. Then the second front is the West Bank, where just yesterday, 10 people were killed who were protesting. 10 people were killed by Israeli security forces. Now, this is what supposedly is the Palestinian state. But Israel goes in and...
All right, I think we've lost Na'eem Jeenah, director at the Afro-Middle East Center, speaking to us about the latest developments in the last few hours. News coming in of a tower building in the Gaza Strip that was hit by Israeli rocket fire. Israelis saying they hit that building and warned the building owner because they were struck on that building because they say it was housing is not Israeli but Hamas military equipment. Na'eem, I'm told we have you back with us. I want to wrap on this point, which is the comparison over the last few days of this escalation in fighting to what we saw in 2014, where for 50 days there was an offensive, including an Israeli offensive on the ground in Gaza. Can we stop this round before it gets to that extreme level? Because back then, on the Palestinian side, over 2,000 people were killed, most of them civilians, and about, I think, 67 Israeli soldiers as well.
Well, what we've seen over the past few days in terms of the Israeli attack on Gaza is much more intense than we saw in 2014. So they've compressed the intensity into just a few days. I doubt very much that Israel is going to hazard a ground invasion. I think that 2014 was a bit of a wake-up call for them, that they succeed very well in bombing Gaza from the air, but when they move in ground troops, that's when they put their own troops in danger. So I don't think that it's going to go to a ground invasion, despite them amassing troops on the border. They will possibly, over the next couple of days, intensify the bombing of Gaza. But what we're also seeing different from 2014 is the Gaza resistance attacking into Israel is also more intense. The weapons that they're using are of a higher quality than previously. And so I don't think that it's going to go to 50 days. I think that it's going to end within the next week.
Na'eem Jeenah, good to speak to you, director at the Afro-Middle East Center. Thank you.